Hey there everybody, welcome back. One of the booktubers that I have the pleasure of following is a guy named P.T. Hylton. Some of y'all might already know who he is. He's a pretty cool guy. I always like hearing the books that he reads because they're typically books that are a little bit off the beaten path as far as booktube is concerned. He also has a very unique way of approaching them. And one of the reasons he has a unique perspective is because he's also an author and a self-published author. As soon as I found this out, I decided that I wanted to buy his books, not only because buying independent authors is kind of the cool thing. I also have a sister who independently published a children's book, and I was able to kind of go along for a ride with her through the whole process, and it can be a pretty daunting process, and there's always a sense of pride for me when I find out that someone has read my sister's book and liked it, and I didn't even have hardly anything to do with it, so I can only imagine the feeling as an author who's independently published. So I decided to pick up the Deadlock Trilogy by P.T. Hylton, which consists of Regulation 19, which is book 1, A Place Without Shadows, which is book 2, and The Broken Clock, which is book 3. Now, I ordered these from his site, and he said he would sign them, and he would also personalize them, and I didn't really know what that meant. When I first got them in, I noticed that beneath the signature, he put a little blurb or statement, and I assumed that that's what he was talking about. However, I quickly found out that he actually meant something else. Don't know if you can see that or not, but it's just a little handwritten note at the bottom of the page. Probably happens 4 or 5, maybe 6 times every book. It's just a little comment. In one of the books he mentions a pizza shop, and he's like, oh, this pizza shop's actually one of my favorites in the town that I live in. Another one was something like, man, Colt's really a jerk, isn't he? They were just really fun little blurbs that gave you a little bit of Hylton's insight and perspective, which was really, really neat. I don't think I've ever heard of anyone doing this before, but it's a really genius idea. That alone made these books worth it. But then I started reading. I tried finding out what genre they were going to be considered. Not very hard, but I did look for a few seconds before I started reading them, and there didn't really seem to be any genre associated with them, and people on Goodreads seemed a little bit confused, and I started the books, and even after finishing them, I can understand why people would be confused. If I had to try and give a genre, I would say part science fiction, part horror, part thriller, part suspense, maybe. There's a lot of different stuff going on around there. The book kind of centers around time and how humans view time, how you might view time if you were outside of time, and so on and so forth. The story starts with Frank Hinkle, who is currently serving I think it's a life sentence in Rook Mountain Correctional Institution or something or another. It's a prison inside this town called Rook Mountain. He's been in there 9 years when suddenly he's summoned to the warden's office, and one of the town's selectmen, or select woman in this case, comes in and tells him that they've been trying to find his brother, who's wanted for the murder of 3 people, because evidently murder runs in the Hinkle family, I guess. And they've been unsuccessful in finding him, so they want his help. And the condition of his help is that he'll be allowed out. So he says he'll try and help them, even though he doesn't really have any intention of helping them catch his brother. But so part of the agreement, they give him 30 days to find his brother outside of jail. So he's reintroduced to this small town of Rook Mountain, Tennessee, a town he's been outside of for 9 years, and things are a little bit different and weird. And at first you think it maybe because he's been in prison for so long, but nothing just seems to sit right, and the story unfolds from there. Unfortunately, I don't feel like I can give too many more details without giving away big chunks of the story. It is a very fun and fast-paced series. I gave the first book 8 out of 10 stars, and the second and third 8.5 out of 10 stars. I was very impressed with the writing. The first book is told from actually 2 points in time, and the second and third book even get a little bit more confusing than that, and I think that's something that even experienced authors sometimes bite off more than they can chew when they try and do. However, Hylton was able to do it effortlessly, it seemed. I spent a lot of the book confused because I was trying to figure out what the hell was going on, but it was never because of the narrative or how it was written. There's several scenes where the characters are talking about books or looking at books, and it's stuff like Sanderson and Scalzi and Patrick Rothfuss, and to me that was just really cool and fun. This story seems to have it all. Has relatable characters, it has women who can more than hold their own, it has a little bit of romance, it has scary monsters, it has kind of the all-powerful villain, the even more all-powerful real villains. Like I said, the story itself gets a little bit confusing, but it was very, very enjoyable. I read the whole series in like, I think maybe a week and a half. I read the second book in one day. They're all roughly 300 pages, so they're not long reads, and it goes by really fast. I am very glad that I decided to buy these, and I cannot recommend them enough to anyone watching this video. I think you would very much enjoy it. I do think it's something that's a little bit outside of my normal comfort levels reading. It's not really science fiction or fantasy, but I still very much enjoyed it. There were a couple of things that I considered negative towards the series. One was the universe is never explained, and there's never any real rules put down or put into place. So because of that, you're never really truly surprised when something happens, because after a point you just assume that anything is possible, whereas I think if you had placed more rules, that there could have been a little bit more of a wow factor. But at the same time, if you'd have done that, you would have had to illuminate the reader a little bit more, and I think it would have taken away some of the mystery around a couple of the characters and what they could or could not do. So that was, I think, more of a personal preference. I like knowing what the hell's going on, and for most of the series, you don't. Still very much enjoyed it. I also think the ending, there was a couple of things, very climactic parts that could have been amplified or focused on a little bit more, but again, it was still a very enjoyable series. I would give it overall, an 8.5 stars. I would recommend it to almost anyone. It was a lot of fun. The little blurbs at the bottom of the book just made it really enjoyable. I almost wish there had been more, but it's a really, really cool idea. I hope it starts catching on a little bit more because it's a brilliant idea. I would highly, highly recommend, suggest, coerce people into buying this, because I do not think you would be disappointed. And you're buying from a cool independent author who's also part of the BookTube community. Plus, you'll be getting some awesome books. I don't know why you wouldn't. But thank you very much for watching. If you're one of the lucky people who has discovered Hylton before me, please feel free to let me know that I'm not the only one out there. If you didn't know who he was before this video, or didn't know that he was an author, or were unsure about buying his books before, and I was somehow able to convince you to do so, please let me know what you think of them. At the time that I bought these books, he had them on sale. I think individually they're $16 or $16.50 a piece, and he was selling all three for like 32 something, and that was including him signing and personalizing them, which is really a steal. I will link his personal website and his YouTube channel below. I don't really know if the sale's still going on. I probably should have checked. But even if the sale's not going on, they're still very much worth buying. I would have gladly paid 16 bucks a piece for them. They were that good. Thank you very much for watching. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you next time. You'll have a good one. Bye.